Hey guys, what's up? Johnny Kinsler here with Concert Addiction, making my second recap video that I promised you guys over the weekend. I got to check out Papa Roach in Denver, and then last night I went to Casper, Wyoming to watch the Foo Fighters and Bob Mould. So I'm going to talk about that right now. The Casper Event Center, nothing to bitch about with that. It was a great venue. I've been there before, and this show was a whole lot better than the show I've seen there before, which I'll touch on in a sec. But yeah, nothing to bitch about the venue. It's really cool to see a band like this playing in Wyoming. We don't get a whole lot of bands like this, so it's phenomenal to see someone like the Foo Fighters, which even they mentioned, because they're on their 22nd year anniversary thing right now. They bring that up at all their shows and stuff from other videos that I've seen. And so it was funny that they kept dropping. They were like, this is our 22nd year as a band, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then at one point he was like, I can't believe it took us 22 fucking years to come here, and blah, blah, blah. But it was awesome, so I'll get right into it. Bob Mould opened up for him, someone who I was lucky enough to see at Riot Fest in Denver in 2014. Bob Mould of Husker Du, obviously big punk rock legend, big inspiration to the Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl, so it was cool to see him sharing the stage with them and opening for them, which was cool. But, you know, he came on, he did a good show. A lot of people in the area where I was didn't know who he was, but he did a good job of getting them intrigued, and he only had, like, 2 other people on stage with him, and they, you know, I don't want to say he's old, because that's insulting, but he is an older man for sure, and he was still rocking out like crazy, just like he was young again. You know, this is what I imagine he probably has always been like, because he doesn't really stand in one spot. He's running back and forth, and he's really good at getting the crowd hyped up, which is awesome to see. But like I said, it was unfortunate. A lot of people I don't think could appreciate it, because I don't think a lot of people knew who he was. But hopefully a lot of people were impressed, so that they can now be turned on to him, and now they're a fan of him. So let's hope that's the case. He went on like right at 7:30 when the show was about to start, which was awesome. So the show didn't have any delays or anything like that. He played just until 8:15. He played for about 45 minutes, and he rocked through that whole thing. He barely stopped between sets. And, you know, he was addressing the crowd and being interactive and stuff, but he rocked right through his set. And then they went off the stage at 8:15, and then a little under half an hour later, around 8:40, the Foo Fighters took the stage. And they came out rocking, and they just played right through. I mean, they were talking and stuff, a little bit in between song, you know, how you doing? You know, getting everybody hyped up and stuff like that. But they rocked through for probably a straight hour without really even stopping between songs. And then Dave Grohl stopped, and he said, I can't believe it. He's like, we've been playing for an hour, and I haven't even said hi to you fuckers yet. And shit like that, and it was just real funny. And then from then on out, the show was super interactive with him calling people out. People in the front row, little kids, you know, things like that. He's one of the greatest frontmen of all time. Definitely probably one of the greatest ones that I've seen perform live. This dude's eccentric as hell, and he loves his fans, and he's sarcastic as shit too, which works for him, and it was real funny. Foo Fighters, you know, they're probably one of the biggest rock bands, if not the biggest rock band, that's still working and producing to this day. So to see them playing somewhere like Wyoming is pretty interesting, but it's cool at the same time that they do this. However, their stage setup was pretty extravagant, but I can't help but feel like it would have been more if we were in a bigger stadium or arena, because they're, you know, big arena rockers and things like that. They had this big light fixture that was suspended from the roof that went over like a big portion of the standing room, and they only used the thing like once. And besides that, they had foggers and lights and all that stuff, and then they had the riser for the riser, sorry, for the drum set. That's pretty much all they had as far as their arena rock setup. Dave Grohl even made a comment about that, which might have pissed some people off, but I didn't mind it as much. He said, I love that arena rock shit, but sometimes it's fun to feel like you're playing at the shitty club down the street, which was definitely a shot at Wyoming, because we are the shitty club down the street, because a lot of the big bands play in Colorado. A lot of people were surprised the Foo Fighters weren't stopping in Colorado on this tour, and instead were stopping here. But nonetheless, it was still really cool to see him. Like I said, they rocked straight through with stopping minimal times. They played for a solid 3 hours, you know, not counting the little break before they did their encore and things like that. The show started right at 8:40, and they bowed off stage literally at 11:40. So it was 3 hours to the T, and it was nonstop all the way through. I did not lose interest at all. And Dave Grohl's cockiness just added to it because he's sarcastic and cocky, and that's why people love him, because he brings up the fact that they have so many hits, and that's such a, like, it's a good problem to have, but I'm sorry we have so many hits and so many albums and things like that. He was just kind of acting like, he was acting like a diva, but he wasn't being serious about it, so it just made everybody laugh, which was super funny. They brought Bob Mould out, who opened for them, like I said previously. He had recorded a song with them on one of their previous albums, so they performed that song together. And then the drummer, whose name escapes me, and I should have looked this up before I started because I can't believe I forgot, but the drummer of the Foo Fighters is also a singer. He sang on a couple Foo Fighters tracks in the past, or at least one or two that I know of, but they didn't play any one of those songs live, but he did get a chance to sing. They covered David Bowie and Queen's Under Pressure, and him and Dave Grohl switched spots. Dave Grohl was on the drum set, he was singing, Dave Grohl was doing the backup, the David Bowie part, I believe. And it was a phenomenal little performance there. The lights and stuff throughout the show were awesome. Yeah, and they played for 3 hours, like I already said, but I'll go back to that because, as I mentioned before, I went to a show earlier this year at the Casper Event Center, which was Eric Church. He was one of my all-time favorite country musicians, right? But I felt like the performance he gave was really mailed in, and I still had a blast at the show, and I didn't pay for it, so I can't bitch about it too much. But had I paid money to see that concert, I would have been very upset because we were promised like a 3-hour show. He was on his Holding My Own tour this year, which, you know, I won't babble about this too much because it's kind of irrelevant, but he was on his Holding His Own tour, which was a gimmick where he opened for himself, so he didn't have an opening band. It was just him on tour. He played an acoustic set, then went to intermission, then came back with his full band. That was how the tour was billed. Well, when it came to Casper, Wyoming, he didn't show. He was like an hour late, and then the first part, the acoustic part of the set, he super rushed through and wasn't very interactive with the crowd and things like that, and it just kind of seemed like, oh, he's playing in Casper, Wyoming, so he didn't take it too seriously. Like, he didn't care enough about the audience, I don't think. Nothing against him. Like I said, I had the blast at the show. But these guys were the exact opposite. I feel like this is the same kind of show they put on when they play in the big cities like Denver or Salt Lake City or Los Angeles or Las Vegas or something like that. They cared about the fans, and they kept us going the whole time. They got us rowdy when we wanted to get rowdy. They brought us down when it was a mellower song. The 3-hour thing was crazy to me because I went to one other show this year that was also 3 hours, which was the Guns N' Roses reunion tour, and I think this was better than that. It definitely kept me more intrigued throughout the whole thing. But I don't really have any bad things to say about this, so this is just straight more recap than review. But I will say that my top 10 list, I have one more concert to go to this week, and then possibly one more at the end of the month, but I will do a top 10 list because I've been to like 36 concerts now this year, so I will do a top 10 list of my favorite ones through the year, and I guarantee you this is definitely going to be my top 10, and it will probably be close to the top 4 or 5 at least, because it was such a fun show. I'll also put the video up in a second link and talk about it more there. But part of his encore that he did I keep saying he because Dave Grohl is such a prominent figure. I feel like he's who you go to see, because the dude's crazy running back and forth on the stage for 3 hours, not losing any breath, and it was just awesome. But anyways, part of their encore was they played a tribute to Tom Petty, which I got a video of, so I posted that video along with my thoughts on that, so I won't harp on it too much here. The other thing is they had some backup singers for a couple songs here and there that apparently they needed because their most recent album, Concrete and Gold, which is the tour that this was in support of, they had a lot of backup vocals and things like that, so they couldn't really play those songs on the road without also having backup vocals. So they had 3 gals standing up there that just looked like they were having a blast. Everyone on stage looked like they were having a blast. They took a smoke break at one point, but they were still up there talking to us. When they did the band intros, when he introduced each one of the band, each one went off into their own little song, which was a cover song or something like that, but it was a cool kind of showcase for their talent, which ate up a big chunk of time, but it was still really awesome to see. And then they left the stage, and it was getting late. It was like after 11 at this point. Usually all the concerts I go to in this area anyways end at 11. But they kept going, then at like 11:20 they went off stage, but the lights were still down, so we knew an encore was coming. And then they popped up on the big screen they had, and it was like a video that they were making from behind the scene, or like from backstage kind of. And it might have been pre-shot, it might have been live, I'm not sure, but it was like you couldn't hear them, but it was like them talking to each other, like deciding like how many songs we should play. And then he would say, he would look at the camera and he'd be like, one song, that's it, one song. And then he'd be like, okay, maybe two. But you couldn't hear him, you could just see him, and the crowd was going nuts. And then he said, okay, 3 songs, that's it. And then, but you couldn't actually hear what he was saying, but you could just see him like looking at the camera, and everyone was like, all right. So then they came back on stage, and they rocked through. I think it was the second song they played was that Tom Petty tribute. And then they ended their third song, and they still hadn't played Everlong yet, and we all knew that they were going to play that. So he said, I know we said 3 songs, but we'll do one more for you. And this thing had to be perfectly planned out. Like, I know it seemed like they were bullshitting, but that was probably all perfectly choreographed because of the fact that this was a concise, perfect 3 hours, which is rare. Like, it wasn't 3:01 or 3:05 or 3.5 or 2.5. It was straight up 3 hours long, like 8:40 to 11:40. And they kept it all within that set time, so that was really cool to see. But yeah, Foo Fighters were awesome. If you can't tell, I'm super stoked about it. One of my favorite bands, obviously, and they're even higher on that list now after seeing them live, and I can't believe it took me this long to see them live. But that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, wasn't much of a review, more just a recap, because I don't really have anything to bitch about with that performance. I also got a lot of cool merch. Foo Fighters have awesome merch, so that's just one more awesome thing about them. But yeah, Foo Fighters, check them out if they come near you. They should hopefully be announcing more dates soon, because there's a lot of major cities that were left off of their last tour announcement. But we'll see. Until then, make sure to subscribe to this channel, and if they make that announcement, we'll be talking about it here. And also check out my Facebook page on my website, facebook.com/concertaddiction. And make sure to also check out, I went to another concert this weekend on Saturday, which was Papa Roach Falling in Reverse. That recap's up on the channel now. Make sure to check it out as well. And then later this week, I will be going to see Kane Brown and Lauren Elena, so I'll post that recap as well. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.